On January 15th, 2020, I had Tracy Cooke on the show, and he prophesied before anyone even knew anything about the coronavirus. This is what he prophesied from that show.
Now, God's going to deal with the landscape of the church in 2020. He's going to begin to unravel the grounds that you walk on, and you're going to start seeing everything that can be shaken will be shaken in the next 4 months, even in 2020. But I encourage you as a prophetic voice also that remember, He's going to expedite your prophecies, your visions, your dreams, your desires. You're going to step out the carnal realm. You're going to step into the spiritual realm. You're going to come out of that place of defeat into victory. You're going to start seeing nature preach and nature prophesy. That simply means that there are going to be broken records of weather patterns. You're going to see God bring you out of a place of defeat or low bar depression to a place of victory. 2020 is a time. 2020 is not perfect vision. Perfect vision is 2010. 2020 means the hindsight. In other words, blind spots that you've not been able to see, God's going to let you see it clear. He's going to bring clarification in your life. And unanswered prayers, He's going to answer them in 2020. It's going to be the suddenlies of God. And remember, everything that can be shaken within these next 4 months, you're going to start seeing that. And when you start seeing these certain weather patterns, record-breaking nature is going to preach and prophesy. That means He's bringing awareness that we got to get our eyes back on Him. He allows certain things to take place to get our attention.
You know, Tracy, God has revealed to you, and look, no one knows what He's about ready to say except God Himself. I am so glad that you're watching this show, has revealed the source of the coronavirus and the politicians involved. I mean, this is phenomenal. Tell us some of the things God has shown you.
I just got back from being in Honduras with Apostle Maldonado, and in that time of doing a crusade there, God gave me a dream, and He set me in the dream in China. Now, I'm aware, I must say, not everything, but in this dream, God took me to a laboratory room, a lab room. And I saw the virus being created. I saw how it's coming.
I've heard rumors about this, but you actually saw it being created.
I saw it being created. Now, we also got to remember now the shaking is coming. Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 6. God's in the shaking. The enemy took that as a leverage to produce the spirit of fear and torment of the entirety of the world. So God is raising the prophetic voices to give us a strategy, a plan, how to be one step ahead of the enemy. Amos 3:7 said He'll do nothing unless He first reveal it to the prophets. So God would be unjust if He didn't give it to the prophets. He'll be violating His covenant to the nation of Israel and to the Gentile world if He didn't show what was going on in America and the world today. So He took me into the nation of China, and I was taken to this lab room with scientists and everything, and I saw behind the closed doors was Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party saying
You're not going to hear this on the regular news, I can tell you that.
And they said in there, I opened the door and I heard their conversation, they said we could not impeach Trump. And I shared some of this in January when I was here.
But some haven't heard that.
Some have not heard it. Because God gave me a dream that they were going to try to impeach him, but the impeachment would fall. Then they would try to, they needed leverage. And then in my dream in China, because God deals with me more like He did with Daniel in dreams. And He shows me prophetic stages to what's happening in the world. So when I'm in Honduras and I had this dream for 2 hours. And I'm taken to this laboratory room. I see these scientists creating the virus, and the threats of this virus would come through on the garments and the machines shooting in the air and through needles, like vaccines. I'm not saying you shouldn't take vaccines, but there's an antidote that's coming that hasn't been presented yet. I will say that much. But in this...
how far off is it, do you know, the antidote?
It's engrafted to the fig nation of Israel. There's something that got to do this, and even another general...
Well, the greatest blessings the world has ever known has come from Israel, the Messiah of Israel, the 10 Commandments. I mean, what do you... So that's easy for them to have a vaccine.
But I got confirmation on that from the Journal of Faith this morning. And the thing about this is, this time frame of shaking and the introduction of fear from the enemy is to deal with the landscape of the American churches and the corruption. China, and I'm very careful to say this, but it's, God is tired of what China has done to God's people, how it has tried to stop the church from moving forward as God's people.
They've been persecuting Christians.
They have been prosecuting, burning down mega churches, trying to martyr the saints. And God spoke to me in a dream in Honduras. He said, enough is enough. And when God gets enough is enough, He's going to start showing the prophets what's coming. So January the 15th, actually the first part was the end of December 2019. The second part, January the 15th. And he told me within the 4 months, the clip we just got through seeing, they'll make it April the 15th through 16th. What is that to the nation of Israel? It's the Passover time. So we're going to start seeing this virus. And then I had a dream. The second part.
So what is going to happen on Passover?
We're going to start seeing this virus diminish.
Okay.
And we're going to start seeing, because I had another part of the dream where the sun was coming down. And I found out yesterday from scientific proof from a scientist that when the sun or the heat hit, the viruses evaporate. So God has a plan to break the spirit of fear over the world, that we don't be entrapped with more danger that is lurking.
From a political viewpoint, do you believe there are Americans involved with China with this? What was China's purpose in doing?
China's purpose was to manipulate the election of our president.
Really?
We offset the election, which I don't have dreamed that he's been reelected.
So they wanted him to lose?
Yeah, they want him to.
For sure they would.
Well, the Democratic Party, and this is not, we're kingdom people. It's not about parties.
Oh, I know that.
Republican or Democrat. It's about God's agenda. But in my dream, I heard Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party said, finally, we got a leverage now because Trump rallies big campaigns. So this was all set the time frame prophetically, because what's taking place now was not supposed to take place through 2028. I was already shown this whole entire decade after much fasting and sackcloth. So, and then the Lord spoke to me. He said, the responsibility of the prophets and the intercessor is to get this back on the regular time frame. And now in this sequence, in this season, we have to prevent the plans and the plots of the enemy. The good side of this, a lot of things is taking place that's going to be beneficial. God's going to end the seeker-sensitive churches. He's going to pull the rug and the carpet underneath of their feet. But with China and the Democratic Party, get back to your question and answer that, they're devising a plan and a plot, and it's going to be uncovered, and we're going to see all of this. This virus was created.
Are you saying God has shown you this virus, which was created in a laboratory, and somehow politics has to do with it?
Politics is involved with this to offset. Trump is such, I said this when I was here on the show, Trump is such a threat to the Democratic Party, to the powers of darkness. And irrespective, even as I said before, irrespective of what you believe or what have you, we can't judge a White House until we judge our house. And I said that, and just repeating verbatim.
Now, you happen to, and I think I want to mention this, he happens to be married to an African-American wife.
That's right.
And you have no problem with President Trump.
No, there's no prejudice or what have you. As prophets, our responsibility is to speak, thus saith the Lord, not to join parties or nationalities. Our job is to say, I
want to know what God says. I could care less about the Democrats or Republicans.
I sought the Lord in Honduras, and I said, Lord, what do you want me to tell your people as my responsibility? Because He'll reveal nothing unless He reveals it to the prophets first. And I said, Lord, there's so much fear and panic. How can I see for the world at just one of the prophets, that's 7,000 more, they ain't bow their knees to Baal. And the Lord gave me a 2-hour dream and showed me the corruption that's in the government of China, the corruption that's in the United States, and so many, even about Russia and on and on and on. And the Lord took me in this scientific lab, and I saw them creating this virus, and they're going to use it through vaccine to try to stop life from living. And they're going to do it through some type of machine. I saw it in the dream, and shooting into the air and then rubbing on people's clothing. It was just spreading But the good news of it is we're going to come to the first stage of this in April 15, 16 during the Passover season, that the blood's going to be applied. And anytime the blood was applied, the plague passed over. So the blood of Jesus, the blood of Yeshua, is going to cause the rabbit to come alive.
Boy, that sounds so wonderful. Did God show you, because I still am interested a little in politics, did God show you who's going to win the election?
Yes, he did.
If believers, and I know it's always if believers pray.
Right. But he showed me 3 times in a dream, and I showed this first time. There's a clip that was made here. I dreamed that Donald Trump got reelected. There's no guessing games. He is the one that God's going to put his hands on. And also, too, there's something I can't mention here because it's going to get to him privately. He has to obey this instruction that was given by God. And once he obeys his instruction by May the 21st and the first week of June, it will not offset his election.
I see. In other words, he will win if he follows the instruction.
Because this is, remember, this is the plot of the enemy. The shaking is God. Isaiah chapter 24:19 talks about the shaking. Everything that can be shaken is shaken in now. Out of nowhere, the whole prophetic time frame is off.
But who did China want to win in this election?
Well, China wanted the Democratic Party to win this.
Why?
Because the United States is in covenant with Israel.
Ah.
And because of the covenant of Israel, who's ever grafted to the fig nation, God honors and respects that.
And Trump has done more. As a Jewish man that is Israeli as well as American, I can tell you that outside of President Truman, this president has done more to bless Israel than any president I know of.
Yes, sir, he has. And that's why the enemy, if there was ever a president that had a witch hunt or was despised in office, it's Donald Trump. That's why the church has got to pray and fast more for him in office than anything else. Because the enemy's plot and plan is to remove him.
And who do they want in?
Well, in my dream, they got Bernie Mac out of the way. That was part of my dream because I was in a limousine with all of
Who got Bernie out of the way?
The Democratic Party did.
Really?
And they'll come out of hiding. They'll come out of secret places.
In other words, what you are saying, you know from secret, but it'll be revealed.
It'll be revealed in its time prophetically, even with China, even with the manipulation of China government, because the virus was created. Now, this is not to say that any life that has passed in this virus is not precious, because life is precious. But we've had more viruses that had killed tens of thousands more and never got this attention.
That's for sure.
So why is it
I never remember in my lifetime going to a grocery store and seeing racks empty.
Right. I've never flown to Charlotte and had the whole airport silent. Every time I've flown to Charlotte, it's always...
You know, the most supernatural thing is the reaction to this. That is supernatural.
It's fear. But fear is false evidence appearing real. We're not given the spirit of fear, but of power.
Did you see, or can you talk about potential assassination?
Okay, we'll talk about it and I'll break it down. All right. This is what a prophet sees. 3 things in my dream. The first one was the impeachment would fall. Then the Democratic needed leverage, upper hand. And now they got the upper hand and leverage. So now it's our responsibility to stand as a body of Christ. In my dream, John F. Kennedy walked in and Donald Trump walked in at the same time. And John F. Kennedy looked at me, and then the angel of God stood on my right side, because that's how God deals with me through dreams and the angel when he shows up. And the Lord gave me the time frame of 2 assassinations. The first assassination plot, where it was at, what address it was, and the second one, which I can't really get in details of.
That's okay. No,
but God gave me the name of the individual. He gave me the name of the terrorist. He gave me the name of the address, what state it was involved. And so we're in a season and a time that we really got to pray. And I say this everywhere I go in revival. Regardless if you hate Trump or hate Barack Obama or George, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that the church stand to the forefront, and as long as we stand with Israel, as long as we stand in our covenant with God, as he made with Abraham, who became a friend with God, the blood is applied over our home, the blood is applied over our children, and God spoke to me to give hope in the midst of all this that he's shown me that can lead us to one of the worst decades ever. That in the midst of this crisis, the cross is going to prevail. And that means that it's already been done. All we got to do is, as a prophetic voice, is to give the warnings out, present a strategy, show the people what the next step to do, not to be intimidated, not to be afraid. You don't have to stay in your homes. Now, you got government rules, but remember when Peter got out of jail, the angel in light, he said, is it better to obey man or to obey God? You know, I don't have no problem going to jail for Jesus. I'm going to preach the gospel no matter where. So I'm not intimidated. I'm not fearful. I'm not afraid. I don't have nothing to lose. But if I do not warn them, then I have a responsibility of people's lives.
Well, give me a bottom line. Will this virus just eventually taper out?
It will. It will. This is not the worst.
Beginning Passover.
Right. This is not the worst that's coming. The April 15, 16, during the Passover time, only the mind of Christ can say this. Only God himself can be so brilliant to give a human instrument the time frame from when I was here, January, not because of Tracy, because of God. January the 15th to April the 15th, we're in the middle of Passover. Now here come the plague. When the plague came, what moved the plague? The blood. Passover. Only God can be that brilliant.
I agree.